Well, lobbying is about voicing concern, is about expressing which are your preferences. But the problem with lobbying is that it has been hijacked by few actors in the past, so it carries a very negative connotation. And my claim is that lobbying should be used by many more actors, in particular by the citizens, who should not only vote, but after the elections, keep their decision makers accountable and to express their preferences in order to set the agenda in between elections. European citizens, they feel quite powerless because there's a lot of information overload, first of all, so they get too much information. But also because they struggle in understanding how to use such an information, which have been somehow induced to them in order to make them buy a product or a particular service, or worse than that, to share a particular idea. Because at the end of the day, only few technological companies do identify the contents to which we should be exposed. Contrary to conventional wisdom, the opportunities for citizens to get their voice heard have multiplied over the last few years. There are so many public consultation, possibility of petitioning, possibility of encountering and meeting and even holding accountable our decision makers we're not really aware of. So all these courses of action, all these avenues of participation, they multiply in numbers, but they remain very much unknown and therefore underused. And they might even lead the few actors, the usual suspects, to get a greater voice because they've been hijacking those tools for their own purposes. So that's the situation in which we find ourselves, and in particular the European Union did a good job in creating these avenues of participation, but certainly not in making them accessible, which are pretty legalistic. They seem to be complex to be used, and that's where I think we should make an effort to use more those tools to actually interact with the European institutions, with public authorities more in general, and to get our voice heard more often. I think it's very important today for any advocate to find a good balance between a strategic dimension and a more analytical and even evidence-based one. So advocacy in particular in civil society has been characterized by being ideological in nature, because certainly there's a David and Goliath battle, so it's very easy to make claims which are important, which really represent society, but they don't necessarily translate into the language, or they don't speak the language of decision makers. And I think that's where civil society more in general, including this community, could do a better job in being more professionalized in the way in which it approaches certain tools, it mobilizes knowledge, it relies on the power of law and policy making to make this further breakthrough in the advocacy process. Especially these days, there's a lot of power, potential power in what we do and what we say, and we're not necessarily taking full advantage. And I would say that over time we're getting better, we're doing a better job. There's much more awareness than in the past about the power of those tools in setting the agenda for policymakers. So we are very good, I think, at shaping the social norm. If you look at the most recent big campaigns like Me Too, or when you look at LGBT, when you look at many campaigns that over the last few years, they really changed the social norm quite quickly, quite rapidly. So I think, yes, I continue to remain optimistic, yes.